reduced the number of competencies by close to 60%. So meaning what's left for students to learn are the most essential competencies, the competencies that they need to learn in order to move to one grade level. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is nobody learns, because it's very difficult even to absorb. For example, just imagine teaching a grade 10 students of trigonometry or basic statistics through remote, through self-learning modules. And I've seen it. I went to a couple of homes in here in Valenzuela to observe how children learn through self-learning modules. It's very difficult. And if they want to access their teachers, is through Facebook Messenger or through text. It's very difficult to explain through text. Imagine explaining trigonometry through text.
Kami nga nasa classroom, college na kami nun, wala pa rin kami nakakuha sa trigonometry.
Kaya nga
Ikaw lang yun, Toby. Next.
Naglalaglagan na. Okay.
Senator, midway na tong school year. And are you still calling for a review of the materials? Kasi inaamin naman DepEd na marami nga daw mga errors, at saka they are actually encouraging people to report para daw makorek along the way, ano?
This is
Kaya
actually...
mako-correct, and eto na yung vaccine. Baka mamaya next school year pwede na tayong mag face-to-face, ano, or limited face-to-face anyway.
Yeah.
You still want the modules corrected kasi baka nga hindi na magamit din yung mga yan by that time.
But the way teachers are correcting the modules, it's not the entire modules. No? So what they do is they just give out a piece of paper and write the corrections there. Of course, the reach is another matter, no? But they have a way of correcting. But actually, this is quite the questionable. What's happening is quite questionable because all divisions, they have a quality assurance mechanism.
Yeah.
Now, for example, a division of Valenzuela, meron silang quality assurance mechanism. And that's why I'm quite, I don't know what's happening in our divisions, why this type of errors are coming out. But it goes to show also how the makers of these modules and their concept of quality and their concept of what they are learning is also not up to par, especially when it comes to equality, when it comes to stereotyping. The notion of stereotyping, maraming reklamo is about stereotyping.
Yeah.
The latest is being Igorot being one of the indigenous tribes being stereotyped. And the notion of that, no, is quite questionable in our divisions, and this is something that we need to investigate.
And Senator, this is particularly one, obviously, big and fundamental problem that I think with everything else, the public is understanding. We managed our expectations. But when it comes to education materials, it's almost as if, look, wala naman doon kinalaman sa COVID eh. Di ba? We were producing our materials long before. And in fairness to this administration, it's not just this administration. We've been seeing these things long before memes were invented, long before social media was invented. What is the root? What is at the root of this, of the people producing the material and the lack of quality? Because it's all been bandied about, and I think there's basis to it. People are saying the system is corrupted, the system has been compromised, and basically these are the same suppliers na prente na, sobrang saya na sila, and it's very hard to dislodge a supplier. What is really at the root of this?
That's a very accurate question and a very good question, Robbie. In fact, we've been spending so much time on this topic. And the simple answer to that is teacher quality and teacher education. In fact, we have great teachers. No? Our teachers are committed, dedicated. They really try their best to deliver education to the homes. But they're only as good as the education that they get during college. And this is where the problem is. No? And in fact, there's a huge discussion now in the Senate and in the academe on how to improve teacher education at the pre-service or at the collegial level, because it's affecting also the in-service or the teachers teaching our students. So it's a continuum, meaning we have to teach them properly at the college level. So when they enter the workforce, this is in DepEd, it's when they enter the workforce, they have the proper knowledge, and we're confident that they are trained well and they know the materials that they have to teach our children, and also basic concepts like stereotyping. All of these things they have to learn during the college phase.
But the irony of it is teachers are now licensed. I mean, there was a time when teachers were not even licensed. And I would have to say, I grew up in an environment where teachers were actually very, very competent. And now, unfortunately, I mean, I've seen my kids go through, through school. And I have to say that there has been a marked deterioration even in the quality of teachers. So when the government started requiring licenses for teachers, I expected at least an increase in quality. What happened to that? Is that really something that works?
Just to give body to that comment, Lucy, just to give you very quick numbers. The passing rate for licensure examination for teachers for the last probably seven years is only about 30%. In fact, it's easier to become a lawyer than to become a teacher. And the reason for that is because the knowledge that they are getting in college in the pre-service level. We have to make sure that they're trained properly, and we have to make sure that only qualified teachers, teachers with high aptitude, will become teachers. Unfortunately, right now, the course of education became a default course for a lot of our kids, because they know there's security of tenure in government. And in fairness, we have raised the salaries of our teachers quite high already in the past 10 years. In fact, the salaries that our public school teachers are getting is higher than our private schools. So that's the default course. But unfortunately, we also want to get high aptitude teachers that have strong aptitude to become teachers and train them very well. And this is what's lacking right now in our policy. Parang pwede, but they cannot absorb it. And when they enter the licensure examination or examination, they fail. And this has been a very big problem in the professional regulation aspect of licensure teachers.
Sir, pero kung 30% lang pumapasa, bakit po yung quality is still not so good? Not as good as we want? Di ba? Parang there seems to be an inconsistency there.
Correct. There's also a big debate now if we are testing the right, we are using the right materials to test our teachers. Right now, just to give you an idea, the CHED is a different agency that trains the teachers, and then you have PRC is a different agency that tests or assess the teachers, and then you have DepEd that uses the teachers. These are all separate agencies. And then, sadly, they don't talk as often as what we want. They don't collaborate as often as we want. So there's now a sort of like a silos of a group training our teachers, a group assessing our teachers, and a group using our teachers to train our students. And they're not working as what we want them to work.
Okay.
Well, all these problems have been aggravated by the digital learning mode. And napakaraming problema lumalabas ngayon, wrong information, wrong learning, and dumadami daw yung out-of-school youth. Are you in favor of the no-fail policy, yung proposal nila na ipasala na lang lahat kasi mahirap din akong ma-assess Etong school year na to, mahirap ma-assess yung performance. Are you in favor of that?
I'm not in favor of that, Ami, because the whole point of assessing is to know the strengths and the weaknesses of our learners. And if they're weak, for example, in a subject matter, let's say reading, we help them, so that when they pass to the to the higher grade level, they can adapt to the next grade level with ease. But if we don't know where the weaknesses are, then mahihirapan siya. When he moves to the next grade level, he will have very difficult time of keeping up with that grade level, and most likely he will fail or she will fail. So it's important to pinpoint where are the weaknesses and how our teachers and our school can intervene in order to help that student.
Pero sir,
Senator,
given what you said nga na, well, problematic nga itong year na to, but this, for example, in school kasi, di ba, for 1 year you get geometry, the next year you get trigonometry. One is built on the other. Now, if you have a weak base for example, geometry this year, you'll have a more difficult time with trigonometry next year. So, going back to that po, what should we do with this school year? Would you even be open to, for example, writing off the whole school year and doing it again? Dahil in the end, there are some subjects that are built one on top of the other.
Yes, that's correct. That's they call it the spiral method, no. But the divisions in the schools are designed to look at the weaknesses of our students and help them, no, tutor them, launch remedial classes. For example, if they're weak in reading, they come up with reading intervention. So that's their design, and that's why before the pandemic, during normal courses, the normal school year, we can pinpoint where are the weaknesses of our students and intervene. In this case, that's possible, although it's difficult because, of course, the tutoring, you need to do one-on-one or you need to do small classes, and face is not allowed, no, yet. And that is quite difficult. But in theory, we should pinpoint where are the weaknesses, which subject matters they need to be helped, and which subject matters teachers need to intervene in order to increase the understanding of our learners.
Senator, balikan ko lang po yung question about the material that we're using, the textbooks, the modules, and so on. And when I asked kanina, what's at the root of the low quality and really the glaring, it would be funny if it weren't just dealing with our children, which actually makes it tragic. But when I asked that question kanina, you said, that the root really is the education of our teachers. But the teachers are one sector. The ones who produce, who publish, who sell, who supply to our government are not the teachers. I mean, these are people in the business of it. That's what I really am concerned about, because, and I think this is a question of a lot of people, because while we acknowledge that a lot of things are hard to control or out of our control, people think, yung textbooks naman siguro na kaya natin i-control yan. I mean, that's just a few groups, a handful of groups na siguro naman their centralized work will have a huge impact without having to worry about millions of, the quality of education of millions of teachers. So, gusto ko lang pong balikan yun. What is at the root of the fact that our teaching materials are really subpar and really from time to time crop up with really things that make people so dismayed?
Yeah. Well, there are two types of materials now, Robbie. The self-learning modules, which were developed by DepEd and the divisions themselves. No? And for example, in Valenzuela, we developed our own self-learning modules, and we have a quality assurance team there. It goes through a process, and they read it, they proofread it, they look at the facts, and they quality assure it. And the divisions are empowered to do that for the self-learning modules. What we're talking about are the books in general. And all the books that are being sold to DepEd go through also a process wherein DepEd also, they have their own quality assurance team. So before a book is published, it goes through a process of quality assurance, and then to look for mistakes, to look for facts, quality assurance of facts and the subject matter, and then they publish it. In some cases, the quality assurance will miss those mistakes. And I've seen some of these materials, they call it sick books, no? In which, in theory, it should have passed the quality assurance system of DepEd. But for some reason, it missed, the quality assurance team missed that mistake or missed that error that came out of the books. And that's also a cause of concern, actually. And before the pandemic, we were actually talking about this, and we wanted to look at this closely.
Okay. Senator Win Gatchalian, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Basic Education. Sir, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator.
guys.